thing. Tim, you are so good.
Thanks, Savannah.
You're just so good. And Megan, I'm really excited to read this. And thank you all for being here. So, no surprises. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So no surprises. I'm going to read murders, little murders tonight. And the murders are still figuring out what they are. So, yeah. And thank you. Okay. In the second murder, we scratch backs with hardtack crust, dismantle great works, salivate, bindings break, build bonfires to oust ice caps, once and for all warmth, Amelie Page per capita, tear strips to dip in spit and nurse, wounds forgotten, rot eggs and distend bellies with acrid tears, unravel navels, bow them together, still call it bunny ears, bobble, buoy bound, mordant bloat, entrailed in an ocean ample enough, finally, to suck our juices, pray into the empty, agape, bottoms up. You're weird and you don't have to clap every time if you don't want. 6. We adorn, approximate accoutrement, ablate, inward. Somebody snaps fig limb, leaves, hanging weight, fruitless, systematized. In our dreams we order death to graze on hearts. All desires lead to time. We eat naught but speech, alliterate, deliberate, stutter love. Figure the is of future nothings, tender ogres, other continental bodies. Fill dustpans with buttons to dance in. Look at our feet, imagine them gardens. Loiter, lockjaw, dote, mockingly flaunt a robin's paunch, crests of cardinals, corny hens, ornery corns, clog throats with cotton, bareback, molten, we lathe. What contents these forms, in wonder that we ever left the room. 8. Cedar-chested we coat under, waiting, worsted, regale the will, wonder, who normalized this storm. Ontology mediates, transitive, and you are you, a dog that humps in your place, afraid. The what of never know hails majesty, miserly what, mutton for supper, lost in glass looking, ornamental. Butterflies escape stomachs, winded, await, head for a heart to shelter, beat against, have to heave at. 10. A swamp of family. Watch the mandrake writhe. Rendered itty-bitty, we reify real. Some totals of tadpoles apart and parted, arrest, asunder, innate now, as ever, assumed, sentient. Fatty backs of lard, the supple substrate, jelly cold, erroneous, a state deemed depression. Which era, this afterthought? To break like pavement, we sink in like mold, becoming culture, grow holy, all innards, sustenance, and charm. We loosen tales of annals, package them in forgotten tin, canned, wait to grease the pan. Scrambled is still and always egg, drying. Guileless is the fish, degilling, plated and shed of scales. Shellful wishes, edible edicts issued, we whisk was and will be through raw fingers like fireflies that may or may not exist in Oregon, parts of Italy, by the sea, and elsewhere. A place called crustacean will appear craggy and elite. Your cone, however, was made of pear. The genealogy we suffer, a splitting of ends, matted inertia, thatching the roots, the speed of prattle, a hop-hox called home. 13. Obfuscation exists, obsolete though it is. Superlative moons, seemingly large. Our vanishing point, a stasis, a riotous cry. The ricochet, seemingly large. To be moon must have movement. The better to see you with, my dear. A boat is pea green, the remembrance rhythmic. Moon is good for moon, superfluous, seemingly large. 14. Deadlocked shoulders, edging at the ears, hedging our betters, we point skyward. Flatten the locus ammanus among us, parcel pecks and bushels into cavernous anthills. To work, we forget, jacketed. Ciphers of smear and salmon, a glutinous caress, absolute in the stomach, waiting in concrete, whole in the making, coding a decade. This place, a record. 20. We celebrate solitude, internalize the ends, choke, gather embers attendant, ignore, a pebble's attenuate whistle, a bleeding stone. On a gray day, ask why, contentiously. We muddle, over double with joy, almost hiss ourselves, wake into observance, obsolescent, surely, stinking, embrace the plague-surly doctor, turn him away. What, for these boils, but productive consequence? Bind hair by the foot, burn it for the memory of shedding, traceless as shorn as rituals were born, in effigy of now. Sing Ouroboros, wrapped, oxidize, blister, wasted and flaking, demure inured inchworms, ancillary allure, cut, discordant, wanting more. 22. Man, I had a dark period of time. The murders got dark. Yeah, real dark. They're getting lighter, but I couldn't finish for today. They're getting lighter. 22. We grow into everything, flatten the next to nothing. Alignment overrides nonsensical new, always, already, a ruminant, residual, manacled. And on that note, that's it for the murders. I think.
Sure.
All right.
We're
I'm going to try out a poem that I wrote for my mother. Because my mom is here. And because I'm still trying to write a narrative poem, Sean. Thank you for this challenge. That has really kept me occupied. So, it has. It's like I can't. So my mom is right there, JC Times, is wonderful.
Yeah.
Being raised by a poet is really interesting, especially as you get older, because there's this whole there's a record of the emotional landscape of your family. And lately I found myself just kind of responding to her poems, different poems in my head. So I thought I would try to sort of write one, like a dialogue of, I don't know. And this one is a phenomenal poem called Men Kissing that my mom had published in the Paris Review. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. And I wanted to have you read it, but I'd rather bring it. Also, there are references to Dante, because that's what happens when you write a dissertation. And to Bernadette Mayer, because she's awesome. All right. Giving Taste, a love poem for my mother. Rosy necks and strained stubble, reaching toward dawn they stumble, mark scuff on parquet, those synchronous doubles. In this still square of dance, what mama might see. Moist mouths, fragility, ill-fitting, intimacy worthy of a Paris that is not Paris, Texas, neither, the gaze I triangulate, whose shirt grows sweat-heavy, which works. A body is a whorehouse, crudely defined. Golden apples flush, jaundiced and cheeky. One Helen, maybe every Helen in another Troy, each ballad of New York, all the heeding calls. A poet, wide-eyed, on a terrace of pride, softly muttering to a guide. Did I make that come alive? A sash of silk's synthetic cousin is not enough to help you feel fancy, dear, when your date wears a watch, collar pressed and starched, a step behind his rugged twin, dreaming dreams of skin on skin. If our kiss was other than the longing, other than what's precious, could this love palpate a dedication, an understanding? Wonder abject as horror, as though when was then, we topple the apex to project backwards, lie to our children, gift them our havoc, romanticize unbroke yokes, build pedestals for calluses, shed and hatch and shed again. That's it.
Yeah.